Wow, the beauty of the universe is unparalleled. I wonder how many life forms like us exist among these stars.
That's a deep question. Have you ever thought about how we as life forms were born and evolved in this vast universe?
How did we as life forms evolve from mere matter into such complex beings?
That's a wonderful question. Let's explore together the amazing origins of life and why we are here.
I'm starting to get excited.
VeryLongAcademy.
This is the overall structure for today. Let's all learn together, humans included.
Let me know your thoughts in the comments too.
All right, let's get started. First, let's learn about the elements that make up life forms. We as living beings are made up of compounds that include carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. These are found in air and water, and it is believed that life was born from these substances through complex processes and over long periods of time.
So, life was born from various substances.
Yeah, in the 18th century, it was believed that the substances found in living beings were special substances that could only be synthesized by living beings. The substances that make up living beings were called organic, and minerals were called inorganic.
It's organic and inorganic. How does that relate to the emergence of life?
Well, this is actually crucial. In 1953, it was proven that simple organic matter could be artificially synthesized from inorganic matter. When an experiment was conducted to reproduce the environment of the primitive Earth, it was found that various amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, were formed from gases and water.
So this proved that organic matter can be created from inorganic matter.
Exactly. Also, there are things called hydrothermal vents in the deep sea, which are holes from which super hot water heated by geothermal energy gushes out. It was found that these places have an environment similar to the experiment, and there is a possibility that organic matter can be synthesized.
So there were similar environments on Earth indeed.
That's right. It was found that organic matter, which is important for life, can be synthesized without borrowing the power of living organisms. Scientists decided to first define what organisms are in order to study the process in which life first emerged on Earth.
So they defined what an organism is in the first place.
That's right. There are said to be 3 definitions for organisms. First, organisms have a boundary between the outside and the inside, which is divided by something called a cell membrane. This division allows the environment inside the cell to maintain a constant state without being affected by the surrounding environment.
So this membrane is what maintains our bodies.
Next is metabolism. It means taking in substances from the outside world and changing those substances into different ones within the cells. The energy generated by this change is used for vital activities.
Indeed, living organisms consume food to function.
On the other hand, unnecessary substances are expelled from the body.
We excrete feces.
Exactly. And one of the most important characteristics of living organisms is the ability to reproduce the same individual. All living things have what is called genetic material, like DNA or RNA, and thanks to this, they can leave offspring with the same traits.
DNA is referred to as the blueprint of the body, right? Thanks to this, human children are born as humans.
You're well informed. In this way, living organisms have a cell membrane, can absorb and emit energy, and have genetic material. Among these, the presence of the cell membrane is important as it is closely related to the origin of life.
If this membrane doesn't exist, we can't maintain our bodies, right? So, was the cell membrane formed first?
The cell membrane is double-layered, and this structure can be easily created even without life. For example, when you add water to organic matter like lipids, a spherical structure called a liposome, which contains water inside, is formed.
I've seen that before.
It's thought that the first life was born when genetic material was incorporated into a structure like this liposome.
Could it be that the organic matter you mentioned earlier is involved here?
Exactly. As I said before, organic matter can also be created in nature. The first life was born when a liquid like water mixed with this organic matter. Over a long period of time, this life began to take in the substances necessary for its life activities and was able to evenly distribute genetic material when the body divided into 2. And so the first life was born.
Wow, so this life was born from a combination of a lot of coincidences over a long period of time.
However, the Earth at that time was covered in deadly poison. Nowadays, we use oxygen as energy by breathing it, but for the first creatures that appeared on Earth, oxygen was just a deadly substance.
Why was oxygen a deadly substance?
Actually, oxygen has a particularly high reactivity with other chemical substances. For example, if you leave iron out, it rusts, and if you leave the cut surface of an apple out, it changes color, right? That happens because oxygen attaches to them.
I didn't know that, so it was oxygen's fault. So for the first creatures, oxygen was an annoying presence that stuck to their bodies.
That's right. Because oxygen sticks to various things, it was a toxic substance that destroyed the body. The Earth was born about 4.6 billion years ago, and it is estimated that the first life was born about 4 billion years ago. At this time, there was no ozone layer on Earth, and intense ultraviolet rays were pouring down from the sun. Because of this, creatures could not live near the surface or near the sea where sunlight reached.
The Earth of the past sounds terrifying. Deadly oxygen and intense ultraviolet rays from the sun. It's such a harsh environment.
For these reasons, it is believed that the first life was likely born in the deep sea where sunlight does not reach. There are hydrothermal vents in the deep sea, so there were both organic matter and water, creating an environment where life could be born. From the point of view of the creatures at that time, oxygen was a deadly poison. But what about us now?
We're effectively utilizing oxygen as energy every day.
Indeed, oxygen is of great importance to us now.
This raises a question. When did we start being able to convert oxygen into energy?
This has to do with the surprising actions taken by the first organisms.
But why is there so much oxygen now? There was supposed to be carbon dioxide back then, not oxygen, right?
Good point. On the early Earth, when life first emerged, there was hardly any oxygen. That's why there were bacteria that broke down organic matter without using oxygen. However, it's believed that bacteria capable of synthesizing their own organic matter emerged at this time, because there was still little organic matter.
If it's not there, just make it yourself, right? But how did they make it?
They gathered what was around them and made it, or they used solar energy to perform photosynthesis. Among the organisms that perform photosynthesis, there were cyanobacteria. These are photosynthetic bacteria, and they produced a lot of oxygen,
Producing enough oxygen to cover the Earth. How long have they been doing photosynthesis?
an incredibly long time. Fossils of organisms that look like cyanobacteria have been found in strata from about 45 billion years ago. As the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere increased, the ultraviolet rays pouring down from the sun hit the oxygen molecules and created ozone. Thanks to this, the ozone layer was formed and the amount of ultraviolet rays reaching the Earth's surface drastically decreased.
So if the harmful ultraviolet rays have decreased, it seems like it would be safe to get closer to the Earth's surface.
This brought about a significant change in living organisms. Thanks to the reduction of harmful ultraviolet rays, creatures that were living in the deep sea could survive in environments closer to the sea surface. And about 2 billion years ago, when the Earth's oxygen increased, cells began to grow larger.
Cell enlargement. Even if they get bigger, oxygen is still harmful to organisms, isn't it?
The enlargement is what's crucial here. The reason for the enlargement is that an organ called mitochondria entered the cells. These were originally separate organisms that are believed to have been incorporated into the larger cells.
So thanks to the enlargement of the cells, they could incorporate other organisms.
This was revolutionary for the organisms at that time. By having mitochondria coexist within the cells, they could use oxygen to generate energy. Because they could produce energy using oxygen, organisms without mitochondria could maintain their life activities more efficiently.
Mitochondria are amazing. They turned oxygen, which was poison until then, into energy. This is a major revolution in biological history.
That's how it was. The first organisms overcame what was once deadly oxygen by having mitochondria inside their bodies and began to convert it into energy and utilize it. While there is this theory about the origin of life, there are others as well. I'll introduce one of them. It's the theory that life came from space.
From space.
Organic matter has actually been detected from meteorites that came from space. There are researchers who believe that the origin of life may be in space.
I see. So there is a solid basis for your claim.
In fact, in 1969, a variety of organic matter was discovered inside a meteorite that landed in Australia. As a result of the analysis, it was proven that these organic substances did not originate from terrestrial life, but came from space.
It's surprising that meteorites contain organic matter.
It's surprising, isn't it? However, it's equally hard to believe the theory that life originated from inorganic matter on Earth. Fossils resembling bacteria were discovered from 3.8 billion years old strata. It's hard to imagine that life forms, with all physiological activity, self-replication ability, and membrane structure arose within a few 100 million years after the birth of Earth.
So you're saying that the time it took for life to originate on Earth alone is too short?
Exactly.
VeryLongAcademy.
I was amazed to learn that the origin of life was inorganic. I've learned how the evolution of life is interconnected with environmental changes.
On this channel, we learn about everyday discoveries and curiosities through science. If you find it interesting, check out our other videos.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. We're also waiting for your comments. Fellow humans, see you in another video.
Bye!